my pedigree, I got legacy in my pop. You playing hopscotch on that top notch on the block. Shouldn't slide like me, nah. Spice it up with a sauce. Yeah, my Lord said don't do it. I said bop, bop, bop. Yeah, my Lord said don't do it. I said bop. Yeah, my Lord said don't do it. I said bop. I can't keep up. Play ball with Lita. Big queso. I'm born with the ether. But I'm still to the heater. No halo. I've been with a gun. I've been on the King Kong. Come halo. I've been on. What? Check my pedigree. I got legacy in my pop. You playing hopscotch on that top notch on the block. Shouldn't slide like me, nah. Spice it up with a sauce. Yeah, my boy said don't do it. I said what? Check my pedigree. I got legacy in my pop. You playing hopscotch on that top notch on the block. Shouldn't slide like me, nah. Shoot it with the sauce. Yeah, my boy said don't do it. I said what?
He helped to build them, and now he's here to try and beat them. Durka will be taking on Fnatic and some of his former teammates for the first time ever in his career. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this, but more importantly, the map Vetos. How is this going to go?
Yeah, we'll see, because last week we saw both of the teams banning Pearl. Fnatic is going to go first, and actually they're going to leave the Pearl open, banning that Icebox first, and Vitality to ban that Pearl.
Yeah, I think that's a Giga Chad move from Fnatic, coming in bold and kind of forcing Vitality to ban out that Pearl. But looking ahead at this Veto, Haven was a map that both teams decided to leave as a floater towards the end last week in their Veto, so it's no surprise there. But Lotus being the second pick there for Vitality, that's a big one for me, because this is something that Fnatic had to ban in their second wave last week.
Vitality playing the same maps, the first two that they played last week. Also very interesting when we look at the sites. Vitality chooses to start on the attack, and Fnatic chooses the same for Lotus. When we look at the performances from last week, Fnatic, they had a very good split. Yes, but we barely got to see what they could do from that defense. It was actually the attack that they excelled at, and we can say the exact same thing from Vitality. We barely got to see their defense because it was only 3 first rounds that they closed up very quickly against Giant X.
I hope we get Haven, and
Please.
I hope that Vitality have the balls to run the Yoru ISO comp and to try and confirm what Durka was saying, that he can make that comp a little bit better. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about this split, because it looks a little bit different, Billy, to when Durka was on this team. You know, Fnatic has brought out new stuff.
Yeah, Fnatic have brought out new stuff, and I think it's really nice to see them kind of playing that double duelist. I think I've said it in the past, when we see Alpha jump onto that duelist, we see Kayak so much more comfortable. I think Crashes as well coming into this split, I'm going to be keeping my eye on. I think he had a great fade last week, so yeah, it's been really, really nice to see them kind of look comfortable on this map.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of that we've been talking now about Durka, but I love that you bring up Kayak, especially when we think about that last map that we saw last week. It took him to grab that operator and started to chain the kills together, but the effect and the atmosphere that you could see in the rest of Fnatic just hyping him up, even though he was having a bad map, is something that he's probably, you know, if he needs it here in Split, is definitely going to be there.
Let's not forget the other players on Vitality, because for Safe, Kicks, and Runner, this is revenge. This is a grudge match for the grand finals we had last year. There will be no changes on Split, because why would you?
For Vitality, we already mentioned the Zivov moving on to the Omen. My eyes also go to Kicks. This is one of his best maps. And when we think about Safe and this comfort that they found in Brendan Zivov and putting him in that controller role, I want to see, because last week we only saw Safe playing that Tejo. I want to see if he's going to be excelling at the agent. Is he going to become the best Tejo that we have in the region? And I want to see maybe if they change something in the future maps.
I think Mr. Fall would have something to say about that one, Bea. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think as well, with him only sticking on that agent, I guess it's good for him in the sense that he is having to IGL this team. So if he's comfortable on that agent, that's fine. Let's let him play it. And I like what you're saying about Kicks. You know, we had that play of the week from him last week on this map. He was absolutely phenomenal on that breach. But when I'm looking at Les as well, he's just such a great anchor for this team, right? He's always able to hold things down. So starting on this attack, I'm expecting him to be able to find some lurks and hopefully find some gaps in Fnatic's defense.
We are truly in the depths of 5 years of Valorant, because Crashies is playing against Les in EMEA. This is happening here. It's not happening in Americas, and I sure would like to think that they also know each other's tendencies.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that being in different teams, being in EMEA where teams are just better, might have changed a little bit of the perspective that they could have on each other. I also want to see, we were highlighting crashes, and one of the performances that was a breakthrough last week was with this Fate. Again, the attention to those two duelists. How much can you play with your opponent's mind? You're speaking about Durka knowing a lot about Fnatic, but Fnatic know a lot about Durka, and it's just not one mind thinking about them. It's actually a few of them.
I love that you bring up the duelist, because I am looking at this Yoru head-to-head specifically, and when we look at the experience across both sides, that has got to be a daunting task for Kayak, right? Coming up against a world-class duelist such as Derka, he's really going to have to be able to keep his head in the game during this one. And you can see them already, you know, doing their stretches, getting warmed up for this one. So I think they're ready.
And I want to make sure that Alpha stays confident, because last week he was a little bit quiet. He wasn't the alpha yet, the world-class trophy-winning alpha yet that we saw come out of him. And for him, you know, I don't want him to let Durka get in his head, because this is also two people that played together for such a long, long time. And we know Durka is the type of player that's definitely not going to let Alpha get in his head. I don't think it's going to happen.
But
Alpha needs to stay seated. He needs to stay seated.
Yes,
Do not stand up. Do not stand up.
But I think that Alpha could also come out to the stage being like, I am going to get in his head. I can see myself getting in his head. Love the fact also that in the region we're seeing so much double duelists. It's a little bit after the result maybe that we saw in Masters Bangkok. But I love to see that teams like Heretics yesterday or like Fnatic today, when you have the tools, please use them. We absolutely love them because they give you a wave of creativity that many other teams can only dream with.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're seeing the flexibility of duelists now as well, right? I think now that Sunset is coming back into the map pool to bring that one up, we're probably going to see a lot more Neon played too. So yeah, it's nice to see the kind of diversity of agents that we have at this point.
We set the stakes already. It's time to see who is going to deliver. Over to the voices behind the action today. Take it away, Mitchman and Tombiz.
Thank you very much, Yinsu. It's time to see how this battle unfolds. I'm very excited. The prodigal son back down on the stage, but he's brought home his new family. Let's see who can take the cake.
New friend.
It's going to be one hell of a battle. You know, Dirk is obviously familiar with how Boaster likes to play the game. They've played a game or two together, a tournament or two, and a trophy or two lifted. We're diving into Split to start this one out. Tom, what's your impression of how we've ended up in this Veto? Split, Lotus, and Haven. Does it lean to either team?
But the interesting thing is you go back to, what, last week where we had that sort of GX matchup, and Vitality have gone with the exact same pool, so clearly feeling very comfortable where they ended up, but that also gives the tape over to Fnatic. Durka, though, he is looking to battle and brawl within the first seconds of the round, but could just all be a ruse. The rest of the team is still patiently waiting back in mid.
Yeah, and you've still got that gate crash down inside sewers as well, so a decent fallback option if they need it. The idea to fake out early, and not much of a reaction from Fnatic. Very stable as they push up in B main, gaining control, and Alphair was tucked in that corner the entire time, getting a reward for his patience here. You see the Yoru, you think maybe it could be a fake, it could be looking to gate crash back, but now they've got the steps as well, confirming that this attacking side is moving up into heaven. Alphair greets them there as well. A double opener, but Safe puts him to bed. There's still a chance on this A side hold, but with the fast rotations coming behind them, them being boxed in with that middle push-up that's come through from Chronicle, and players rotating into the site, it's still quite an uphill battle.
It's looking rough at this stage for the side of Vitality. Boaster just playing passive, a wraparound already coming in from behind, and Safe is going to have to hit the shot immediately and won't be given the chance. Kicks stuck in the mud. The grab will bring it back, still manages to get one, but that will be all she wrote. First round will go the way of Fnatic, and that's the thing. We come into this matchup, one with a potential for either side to take it. Obviously, you go historically. Fnatic have always been the ones winning that fight of the two teams, but this is the first case where Durka is on the other side of the pool and is the best duelist. And, well, if you look at who won Duelist of the Year last year, also the second best duelist being on the team, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if Fnatic can weather that storm and keep that streak going.
Well, at least for now, it started out well, 1-0 as they begin, and an Outlaw purchased up in round 2. I'm happy to see it. Can't wait to see what Alphair can get done with it. In this round, Well, it might be later in the round. It could even be the retake where he's needed. Vitality, they don't have a lot to work with. Granted, weaker weapons across the board. Pistols, classics, and one Sheriff. They move towards the A site, which was wide open. The only person defending it is Crashies with his early utility, hoping to garner some information, but Vitality already gave that info away, and the gate crash into site gets Durka all of this space. The plant will be difficult to stop without a big risk with a peek out of heaven, and so, yeah, a post plant. Not bad start for Vitality already.
The issue is, other than the extra credits, now it comes down to how much they can garner. Nice usage, actually, of that Aftershock. It's going to help them out quite significantly. 2 picks already. Kicks now stuck in the backlines. Sheriff in hand. 3 players to find. It would be an absurd way to start out this matchup. Nice shot on the burst, but can't quite correct. Very close, actually, to taking down Boaster. It's damage. It's not bad, but Fnatic still convert.
Yeah, I think Vitality get the best of both worlds here with being able to push into a site where it's not very heavily defended, and then they get those close-range engagements with the pistols as the players are coming back out of screens. So, yeah, when push comes to shove in the rest of the fights, you're not going to be winning them, but well-placed utility and a good gamble early rounds resulted in a dent to the Fnatic economy at the very least.
I'm
But
shooting
now
again, baby. Every day I'm shooting at the start.
We're getting back to reality, though, for Vitality. They've made it work pretty well with a minimal investment. Now the big guns come through.
I'm excited for this one. I feel like both teams have come in with high energy. Saw Alfier a little bit early on, and he said he's definitely ready to play, ready to go, and I think he's going to want to beat his old teammate. For now, though, it's his teammate of Kayak already getting that early aggression onto Safe. Bear in mind, of course, that there are still a few vulnerabilities here for the side of Fnatic, but a victory would send their economy skyrocketing and also retrieve some extra weapons as they go. Spot, Crashies on a Stinger. That Outlaw, okay, still decent, but still in play.
The Outlaw giving them opportunities as well, you know, even if Crashies just peppers them up. We've already seen through that cage, but Chronicle going down in mid, it's going to cause problems. You're losing your Viper wall and some A control as a result, at least a denial on the push, but instead they go pushing. Fnatic find a pick back in the other direction, keep that advantage now in a 3 versus 4, and Vitality very much moving towards the position that Fnatic want them to, right into the waiting hands of Kayak.
Yeah, he's been fantastic so far. Boaster as well, even just said it seconds ago. He's on point, he's been fragging. They will be the point of contention.
30 seconds left.
Haven't cleared him, and eyes are focused on Kayak. Doors open for Boaster. He welcomes himself in. That's a double pick from the backside. A great round from Kayak as well. Fnatic really heating up, or rather coming in hot with a 3-0 start and denial of the early buy round from Vitality. This is going to be quite the lead built up on the defensive side. Let's talk expectations as well, Tom. Like, you're seeing 3-0 on the board for Fnatic. How worried are Vitality at this point?
But that's been the interesting thing. You look back to the very small amount of data we have from stage 1, and both teams have had very successful attack sides. So you're talking a 9-3 versus GX, and that game actually started to slip back a little bit. And then on the other side, an 8-4 versus Na'Vi for Fnatic. The question I have, though, is that are some of the heroes for either side still going to have the same level? Crashies had an insane game last week to help them get the victory over Na'Vi. And wow, Sivu maybe coming out with the debut of the season? Or definitely debut of the season, maybe debut of ever in EMEA.
yeah. Well, I mean, coming into this week, coming into today, he's the leader in terms of ACS. He was second last week after all the games were played. Second to Zeus, who...
Yeah.
He was all right in the first week, so that's not bad. Again, low investment from Vitality, so not too excited to see these battles going on, as they should go the way that they have. A bit of a dent that Vitality are able to dish out, but for the most part, again, dominance for Fnatic.
One other talking point is the fact, though, that if you're going to go into the exact same Veto as you did in week 1 against Fnatic, like, okay, we've obviously had changes in coaching staff with Milan and Scott now as that sort of leading way. Yeah, of course, you're supporting the Irish guy. But no, genuinely, from what we've heard from BBL as well, those guys do their research. I've seen Milan. No offense, Matt. Doesn't look like you've slept a lot. I think he's been up all night prepping for this game. So obviously the same can be said for the other side, Vitality. But you have given them the data to look at, and they're coming in with the exact same idea.
Well, 4-0 start. As you said, it's been good attack sides, and so for Vitality, they know that Maybe the worst is yet to come. It's time to start putting rounds up on the board, and this is where you do it. Rolling Thunder online alongside Safe, although he doesn't have his ult, he's still got those salvos and will incrementally through the rounds. Don't think we used them early on. Indeed, that they wouldn't be online had they have been used, as you've seen just a default. Vitality spreading across the map, waiting for aggression. And they've spotted that a couple times that aggro's come in once they take space elsewhere. A smoke goes up in mid, and that prompts a B push, but not ready for it to pack quite that much of a punch. In a big round for Vitality, they're already a man behind.
Look back to that GX game. Sivo was lurking there a lot. I think that might just be direct pressure. Flash through. Alfier is watching, but Durka timing almost works out for him. But either way, it has forced them back. An important entry, though. Chronicle down, leaves a bit of an opening, but the B main aggression is still there. Kayak is waiting, not going to fall for it, and then gets the easy shot. Now has his dimensional drift, and Alfier for support, who's going to swing back in. Safe connects one while still on the ropes, but they know exactly where he is. An easy pickoff for Boaster, and now left onto less. 20 seconds, and Kayak just is not missing a beat. What a start this guy is having, mentioned. Well, I think we have had some lack of expectations from Kayak, like whether he can match up to the likes of Durka. He's doing all right.
Okay, we're
Yeah,
going,
I mean, there's always going to be questions.
Right, 3.
That's exactly what we were touching on as well. That's great to see. Thank you very much to our EVS team for that one. The idea that, again, they're taking mid. You see that take. What was the response in some of the early rounds? Push B main, same thing here, but because Vitality didn't have players in position earlier, they didn't know that Yoru flash was being used. They weren't ready for the pop, and the reaction to jump up behind the boxes was punished very quickly indeed. Vitality go back to the drawing board here, as, make no mistake, their game plan was bait aggression out of their opponent, and they did that successfully. That's where it started to fall apart. And then pulling in the Rolling Thunder as well into this round when we're coming in with Safe just now having the Armageddon. It's a lot of, I guess, gamble from that side that play would work out in a round like that where they had rifles. It didn't connect, and now they go back to the drawing board for what is, we've gone from needing to get a couple rounds on the board here now, feel a little bit more confident, to panic stations. Fnatic are getting close to just running away with this.
Yeah, and as said, like I think Fnatic are no slouches when it comes to that second half, so I think a good time to take a pause. It did seem like maybe a lot of the talking was coming out of Safe. I think Faded looked a little bit quieter on screen, so I think clearly taking control in that scenario, maybe spotting stuff himself. I wonder if we're going to see something slightly more direct, because as you said, adaptations being made from Fnatic on the fly. All the way you can take that away from them is surprise factor.
Salvos lined up. TP in the back of B will come in just after salvos have fully popped. Or just before, in fact. Durka's going to tank a little bit of it for the element of surprise. Hasn't been able to catch anyone off guard, but this is a great round to take those risks in when you've got those weaker weapons. Armageddon calls it goes. Alpha can't get out! He has to fight them here and now! And at least manages to keep things even. The ult trade out, well, if it was just for the kill, it wouldn't be worth it, but now they've got heaven control and a real chance in this round.
Dimensional drift also available. That's just been picked up by Durka. Means he can get them the information if he needs. Instead, he's just going to go fighting, just beating his old IGL with only a ghost in hand. This leaves Kayak 9-2. Operator, not really the gun you'd want in these sort of moments. He'd have to pick less out of the corner, and he checks the right position, but doesn't quite find that final kill. Pace safe card, thrifty is what gets Vitality onto the board, and I don't know what was said in that pause, but it was bang on.
Yeah, absolutely the right call, just putting that bit more pressure on early.
The stun
like we
is
said,
gorgeous.
taking some risks. Alpha obviously trying to dodge the stone with that jump up, doesn't manage to, but still picks off a kill. But it's the chaos on the site. Both the player in heaven being crept up on, and then the fact that you're looking the wrong way. Boaster worried about that heaven walk up, worried about Les, who just found a pick moments ago. Ends up missing out on Durka. 5-1. Vitality, they put a round on the board, and the reason I was so worried is I thought it would be 6-0 with a buy round, putting them on a knife's edge of how this game was going to go, but instead, they've put a very early round up in that week 5.
Yeah, it has to be just the escape from Kayak. They set him up. basically succeed. It looks like there's going to be an immediate response, though. An attempt to deny any chance at a plant, the utilization of that showstopper, but it actually hasn't got the kill. The player at backside with the spike still survives. Safe has just popped off as well. 2 of his own.
I don't know how Kix is still alive. Well, I do. The stairs saved him. Just the corner of them caught the showstopper as it was firing into, well, what would have been certain death for Kix. Would even make this fight a little easier, as they'd only have to worry about Seavoff on the site. Kix with another, and now Chronicle has to clutch up. He's already got himself a triple. 2 more, the ace needed, but less again. The dagger in the back from heaven. His lurks have been great these last 2 rounds. Huge value found. And now 5-2. That early contest was nowhere to be found, but Vitality waking up before it seems to be too late.
And they have been more direct. They haven't really allowed their opponents a chance to try and respond. An immediate pop of that dimensional drift spots out the position of Kayak. And at that stage, when you have that up, you have to leave. You're going to get salvaged, you're going to get stunned. It just has to be a retreat. And sure, I don't mind the initial response from Fnatic. Use that Nightfall, try and get back in nice and quick, even using a showstopper of their own in combination. The fact is, though, it's just the patience, I think, that ends up working out for the side of Vitality. I think it takes a certain level of skill to rush in somewhere and then just stop and do absolutely nothing. Just wait for your opponents to make a move, because if you try and push forward and they're all waiting, you probably lose the round. Think if Kix even moves an inch or 2 forward or tries to plant, he doesn't stand a chance in that moment. It's just that freeze and giving space to that little bit of extra time for safe.
I was lucky enough to catch up with Kata yesterday, Cadaver from Mates. I got the little tutorial on Seavoff. I said it enough times in front of him that he said, it's close enough. I think that's how they're going.
That probably is still wrong.
It probably is, most likely. But there's a lot of debate over in French whether the PH would come through or not. Seavoff was another alternative that we were given. Not going to go with that one. The Americanization of it is a little much. But yeah, Seavoff, he had a huge opportunity there because of the fact that Kix was still alive. There were 2 fights where he was able to creep up on the pillar, and they're looking at backside because they know there's a guy trapped there. He can't get out. Let's take him down. And even with the smoke up, that was where he was able to creep through and catch that player looking the other direction. So again, just those dominoes falling from Kix being able to survive. He did a great job, and again, top frag in the server. It's good to see him, one of the longest remaining members on this roster. For Fnatic, well, Kayak's been slowed down. He was 9-2, 9-4 now. Both rounds the Vitality have put up have seen him by the wayside, whether he's out of the play or getting dealt with early on. So a great adaptation, considering 3 rounds ago we saw Vitality adapt. They had the right read. We know that we can make them push, but they weren't able to deal with the push. So now they've become the push.
Yeah. Obviously, again, going back to some sort of overall context of the match, there's so many stories to be had. Obviously, Durka sort of switching sides, but also seemingly the decision being more on Fnatic's front than his to go out of the team. Him now coming back and making it to that first Masters of the Year, getting into the top 4, and Fnatic not looking particularly good in that stage. It seems like they've come back swinging in stage 1, a switch up in coaching staff as well, but the other thing as well is just on an organizational perspective. Vitality never having that victory, and let's be honest, if in the past, I think there was always a bit of a mismatch. Fnatic having that better team, having that huge amount of wealth of experience, but also every single one of these sort of talented young players, or stealing people from Gambit. Like, you're talking about the best of the best. Their old coach was okay as well, I guess. He was decent. So it's kind of one of the things where up until this point, I think the expectation was nearly always there that it should be a Fnatic victory. I think this is the first time we come in where Vitality are the favorite. Like, you look at them and you go, okay, this is Durka and Safe. You brought in Les as well. You've now brought in a young Frenchman, and Kix is there to sort of like pull everything together, which I think he's done fantastically well. Also a great personality outside of the server as well for the squad. Brought in Faded from across the pond to try and glue everything together. And then you have that first success. So I think it's a huge sort of talking point. Luckily, you've heard all my spew. And now you get to go back to the desk, which has Yinsu on it. See, I'll say your name. Yinsu's on the desk. There you go.
I mean, considering we're living in a world where Vitality is now called Durka's team, I saw that Team Liquid have rebranded to Nat's team, Apex have rebranded to Fluorescence team. I think it's about time that we rebrand this as Yingsu's desk. How do we feel?
That's all right.
Yeah. I'm putting myself up, you know, I'm on the same level as Floor, Nat, Durka.
I think that's
we agree with that.
Live your truth.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Live
Thank
your
you.
best life.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like I am living my best life right now, and so are Fnatic, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. We see a very, very strong start for them with that 5-0, and then that not the tech pause, that tag pause comes in from the side of Vitality, and we see a switch in things. They even take that opportunity, even though the buy is not the best, to actually take and make a little bit of use of those ultimates and just pivot into a very specific part of the map for them.
What do you mean by
No. I feel like they're just gonna keep going B and B.
Okay,
B.
okay. Yeah, I can see that. Because I think that the direct hits on B have started to work for them, right?
Yep.
So they're just like, okay. And you heard Tom talking about it, you know, oh, it's very skillful if you can kind of just take the moment to pause as soon as you get onto that site, which I think is what we're seeing so far, and you're kind of forcing Fnatic to flood back in. So yeah, I can expect us to start seeing that.
The reason, though, Fnatic have started off so hot is winning that bonus round, which is so important. And Kakuka, they just seem to do that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I mentioned this in the last test, but to me it's very surprising because this is one of the things that characterized Navi last year. They're winning a lot of bonuses, right? And currently, Fnatic, they're 9-2 in bonus rounds this year. This is after they have won those two first rounds, the pistol and the anti-eco right after that. They have an extremely high conversion rate. So when we speak about getting confidence going into a matchup, starting off strong, setting the pace, they're being very, very good at it.
I think as well, we have to look at the buy that they're having in round 2 for them to be able to convert these round 3s, because a lot of the time we're seeing Kayak on the Outlaw, we've seen Boaster pick up that Phantom, right? They are like investing quite heavily into their second round, which is allowing them to have this success when it comes to converting that bonus round.
I can't believe they gave Boaster the Phantom on round 2.
Did you not hear what he said? He was like, at the beginning of the match, I always shoot. And he is shooting. Wasn't he like a 9-0 at some point?
Yeah, because Moldy's not allowed to do it. But, you know, God forbid, Moldy sometimes keeps the Phantom to himself instead of giving it to Floor. But this is the... I don't know about you guys, but you can almost really like feel the tension a little bit. Both sides, they're not doing anything too crazy. They're both being very disciplined. They're warming up into this game until Vitality became very explosive. And that is often the way that you beat Fnatic, right? Some teams just show them too much respect.
Yeah, I think we saw that when they were against BBL in kickoff, especially. You know, they were playing very kind of out the box and like taking a lot of risks. And I think that Vitality now we're kind of leaning into that a little bit more the past couple of rounds that we've seen. They're trying to lean into being direct, not just like, you know, looking around the map, because Kayak was shutting them down so often. You've seen the main push where he was helping set up Boaster. You see it in every lane. So yeah, I think I think that Fnatic will have an answer for that at some point.
Yeah, and I think that thinking about today and the stakes, we expect to see a very evened out. I think we're praying to go to Haven, not only because we want to see what happens with the compositions, and obviously the head-to-head would be amazing, but I think that's what everybody is expecting. You want to see a Fnatic that is back in form, that can prove that they still have it, and for the side of Vitality, we know the expectations that they are there. And now they have to face their first challenge. Yes, Fnatic has started off with the lead. Can they snowball that, or are you going to counter it?
What I like about the countering aspect is that they clearly know where Chronicle likes to play. Chron has been in the game for, what, 4 seconds each round? It feels like he's instantaneously dead. But let's see if Vitality can continue this comeback we're seeing and send this back to, I guess, is it Mitch's cast?
I like Tom.
Yeah, Tom's cast. You can have that one, Tom.
Yay. It's all yours, Tom. Go ahead.
Been given this sort of power before. I don't know what to do with it.
Well, I've released my iron grip for long enough. It's time to get back into the game. 5-2 to Fnatic, and you heard it on the desk. You know, they had that great start, winning the bonus, being able to follow through, then losing to the Thrifty as well. That's given Vitality a way back in. It would have been a much longer road, facing down that 6-0 in a high-stakes buy round. Ults coming online for Fnatic.
They also, they used their ults there.
Exactly.
That was where they went. It was the Nightfall and the Showstopper as well. So, yeah, they've kind of... They had the opportunity for a pretty insane lead, but the response from Vitality, but you always felt like at some point they would find it. Thing is, though, Fnatic are not struggling just yet. This next round loss would put them in a bit more of an awkward spot, and you can see again just Durka trying to sell these fakes. The fight is going to be taken as well. It's actually gone all right. I thought that Kayak wouldn't get anything from that, but finds an opener, gets some info. Now Vitality have to find another idea.
Well, it seems they're already pretty set on where this one's going. Wrap all the way around to the A site. They'll challenge that, feeling like the choke point's maybe a bit weaker. Without Kayak floating around to potentially be holding that long range with the op.
Fake teleport.
Vitality. The big idea is to have less play that late. Now, I did think they would go through mid with him, but he goes back for the ultimate outside B, signaling that they've still got presence there, but the Prowler from Crashies grabs info. That's going to stop the over-rotation from Alpha. He's still going to be here for the push onto the site, or so they think. Push is coming in through heaven. A lot of space taken by Vitality already. Less's lurks have just been so good. And it comes back to Alpha, same position as before, and they're not going to clear it. That's 2 from... Oh, no!
Oh, they're not going to forget that one in a while. It's so much time, and unfortunately just the...
The round's not over yet!
Not even just wasting the bullets of one gun, but wasting the bullets of 2. And this is what it's like to face up against your old teammate. You're gonna kick him while he's down.
What did they say on the desk earlier? Like, oh, you'd think there's some sort of a rivalry, but it's all friendly on social media. This ain't social media. They're all getting involved. The new guy's in there too. Oh, they're letting them know that we're down to a classic. Running out of ammo to dump into the bodies. That is wonderful. And the post plant from Vitality not even going to be challenged. Boaster hearing all those shots. I was going to say he must be wondering what's going on, but he knows Durka. I think he knows exactly what was happening. That's a whiff that's going to sit with Alpha for a long time.
Well, it's going to sit with him until he has a big round, which could be any moment. That's the one thing. I feel like there's some players that can get mentally boomed. And don't get me wrong, I feel like Alpha can be one of them at times. But I also feel like when he gets fired up, he aces you. So I think that maybe the frustration will be there, but I also think if you get this guy annoyed, he's going to come back at you swinging. So.
Holy shit. Yep. I think you can tell which team people are supporting by the reaction there. Some sat back in their seats, some sat way forward. That was phenomenal stuff. Oh, Alpha
from Duck.
No, it was phenomenal from Alpha. It was one of my favorite plays he's made. Not so much his. In that replay, I think we got to see it.
Still have a buy hit. Now, it's definitely not the best out of Fnatic. You got a Judge, potential for a Viper's Pit. Crash is going to be stuck down on a Guardian, and as said, when it came to last week's performance, it was a really big part of them being able to win. Hasn't seen the same success just yet, but it is early days. But well, the early days of this map was a 5-0 start for Fnatic, and now it's starting to slip.
The great thing is, like, Les is so strong in his lurk game that even though they just faked A, there's 3 players here, I don't worry for a second that Les is going to get his by the end of the round. Rotation comes back to middle. Spike's been waiting outside B the whole round. The intention has always been to end there, but to pull as much as they could towards that A site. Now they shift to the left. The whole body does. 4 players into main, and again, Les has lurked through heaven. It's been flawless so far. Let's see if that continues. Gate crash going through to back site. Probably the same salvos we saw before. No, in fact, just a dive.
Oh, and in fact, that gives an opportunity. That's the spike down on the deck. Bear that in mind. Not a lot of time left for Vitality to try and work with. And Boaster, more importantly, Kayak is just going strong. This duo within the B site has been perfection. Or in-zone flawless, you could say.
It has indeed. An in-zone flawless round on the board. And yeah, I think the salvos must have been used a little earlier. They weren't online on the push through, but still, almost adding an extra layer to it, using the fake gate crash, the fake TP, instead of actually committing to it, but it didn't seem to cause any sort of a problem for Fnatic.
I'm pretty sure earlier when we had a replay for Boaster, he said, get me back on B. Well, I guess that's what happens when you do. Definitely having a strong individual performance. Okay, Doug has just been dope. Crashies decides to play ahead of the curve a little bit, and well, I guess you've seen Durka play for that ramp position so often. Just get up there and then retreat, teleport somewhere else on the map. This time he's punished.
This is All risk of the walk up through heaven,
One
but
suppressed.
Boaster's just come in to fill that gap, so no real problems there for
Portal
Fnatic.
closed.
3 players committed though to this half of the map, and then it sort of has to be. Puts a bit more pressure perhaps on Alphier. Ashy's lined up,
Bring them
engaged
down.
across. They lose heaven control, they can't hold it together. Have to instead split their gaze in both directions.
the wrong way.
Nade, yeah, not quite gonna land on the players that were caught off. This push from Vitality, it's gonna have a lot behind it. But a look at the rotations from Fnatic now. There's about a whole squad's essentially here.
They even gave up the pit to be here. Stun, solid. Will force them back off the angle. Have the potential for some isolated duels. Les is looking for that gap once again. Alfia was forced forward by the utility, but they still don't seem aware. Not going to connect the shots, but his teammates have found everything they need. 20 seconds up and coming on the clock. No ground. No from the shadows. And honestly, it looks like no hope. I think this has to be a save now.
Yeah, they've made that call as well. Even for Seavoff, he's not safe.
10 seconds
Fnatic,
left.
they've got credits. They're going to go pushing forward, and more so than credits, they've got confidence. Kayak certainly does 13 and 5. Had a great game so far. Looks deep for the kill off of his flash. Ends up making it out alive, even though he missed the player in the corner. A big economy bolstering round for Fnatic, but with just 2 left, the question remains. You talked a lot about the attack side for both of these squads. Well, Vitality have got some ground to make up.
Oh, for sure. Oh, there's no doubt. A 7-3, and a lot of the streaks of rounds we've seen from Fnatic have been very dominant, very clean as well. So you're having a lot of finances going into the next few rounds. But I also really like the fact that even though you're talking about Fade alongside a Raze, not a whole lot of delay, the amount of time they bought for rotations there was sublime. Like, the C's nade may not have got a kill, but they did that early work. Kayak, aggressive position. Much more so than before, and we see the same spread net set out by Vitality. Trying to watch for aggression, but also trying to find a gap.
A little bit less so now, leaving the A site a little bit more open. They still have a cam and a trap, but it's the fact they're not waiting for that aggression. But it's a B main spot and mid where they still had numbers. They catch off Kayak. Looking for a little more as well. There's an opportunity for Seavoff. Boaster filled in the angle, even shot a few shots towards him. With a player in B main and one already down, B seems like an easy target. Chronicle's the only one standing in the way, and he gets caught by the decoy.
Oh, operator retreat, paranoia puts through, and Seavoff is gone. Boaster predicted where his opponent was coming from, and more importantly, he's been able to hold on to B main.
Said it was only Chronicle standing in the way. Didn't think B main would be able to be held onto so deep into the round. Big push by Vitality.
Yeah, they know.
Don't commit it though. It's half committed. Durka even caught with his knife out. Luckily kicks Phil back into space and covers his retreat. A double pickup. And they know that Boaster is coming from B main. They've certainly heard the steps now confirming the rotate didn't come through, unless again from up in heaven. Who's surprised? Vitality, they were really slipping behind in this series, at least in those first 5 rounds. It looked scary, but looks like they're right back on the horse here.
Yeah, I really like the mid-rounding from Vitality. You had the realization that, okay, they're trying to get aggressive towards B main. They're going to expect us to, now we've got a kill to go in that direction. Let's take mid control. Let's find a gap elsewhere. They get the pick onto Chronicle. And even when they lose those sort of aggressive positions in B main, they go, okay, well, we need something else. Let's take spawn control. Let's fight the rotators to make sure that Fnatic don't get to just surround us. It's smart stuff in the mid round, and while Fnatic in this case weren't able to cope.
Boaster might be having the best half of his life. 14 and 3
there's
at the
nowhere
moment.
to go.
You are done and dusted here, Chronicle. Between the salvos and the Armageddon, there was no way out of there. Caught, and it's a dangerous position to play. Once that ult is online, you see exactly why here.
Yeah. That's the thing, yeah, once the ult's online, you either have to just gamble that you can rotate out fast enough, or just hope they leave a gap, but you also don't just want to give up that Vents control completely, because then your opponent can walk up on you.
And even if they don't, just putting a cage for your heaven is going to leave you with doubts in your A heaven for the rest of the round, so it's just not a good idea to leave it open. I agree, but there's the risk. The reward for Vitality. Rolling Thunder online for this B-side take, and look where they are. repositioned slightly by Crashies. He can avoid it, maybe provide a little bit of cover as they step out. In fact, even gets the C's down. That's going to slow them. TP to the backside. Durka stuck it. They know, though. They've seen this before. Catching him. Great reveal that would have forced the hand. Boaster on the double. Crashies can't hold on, though. They're able to recover the site, but getting across with the spike is another challenge. Kayak's back up in heaven. Almost takes Safe out. The shot whizzing past his ear. 15 seconds. Last round. No time to save. He's got to swing in, but that means crossing the operator of Kayak. And he's hit the shot anyways. Already 3 under his belt. The nade through, not going to deny. The blast pack won't do it either. Safe's gotten away with it. The salvos! It's a bold play, and not one that will work out in his favor.
I think he's trying to sell the idea that he's gone somewhere else, try and bait his opponent, but unfortunately Alfio was just that little bit too quick. A really nice round. I think mainly the utility that came out from Crashies was absolutely fantastic. The fake on the reveal, the use of the C's as well. Superb round to set up his teammates. Of course, though, that is only the first half, Mitch. We'll be back after the break.
Nice, Alfia! Holy shit, I'm good as well. Actually, so...
Back, folks. 8 rounds on the board for Fnatic. After a 5-0 start, though, hell of a recovery from Vitality. They really pulled up their boots, and now it's time to take the long run back into the lead. 4 rounds in a row. It starts with the pistol, but Tom, there's been some factors for Vitality that have been a little bit missing. With Fnatic having Boaster 16-4, and Kayak was on a 9-2 start, not ending that badly with a 2 KD. That's not the half that Vitality would have envisioned.
Yeah, no, I saw a sign out in the crowd that said they may have Durka, but we've got Kayak. And honestly, in this map so far, Kayak has definitely been the better of the two. Of course, you have to look at the way that Durka was playing. Very aggressive with his TPs, trying to sell fakes, trying to push into certain spots on the defense. Got to be hopeful he can get a little bit more done and more kicks. Already going to be starting things off with a bang. Kayak is gone. There is a walk up in the meantime coming into B main. It looks, however, like the defense have decided to play this almost as a full retake. 4 players gathered up in towards that spawn area.
Yeah, they're going to come blitzing through. Late play by Crashies is being spotted. Making it out of here, not quite so easy. Tucked in the corner, but the fire from down below, it's lighting up the kill feed. Chronicle with the double. And the site now taken for a plant. They're not sticking it yet, still trying to bait more players into Chronicle's crosshair, and just seconds away from seeing that work. Oh, he's caught him off guard! It's a wonderful play! Leaving it down to Crashies to do it all, and they've spotted him too. What a round from Les already. With 35 seconds left, there's still time for Crashies to... Well, they're not behind him in main. That's what he was clearing there, so great information at least. Knows where both are, but dealing with Les seems to be a problem. 3-piece for him and a great recovery on a pistol round that was definitely in danger.
Yeah, I always find that with Les when you're watching those attack sides, especially on a map like this where he's going to get his one, he's going to be lurking in the back, maybe finishes off someone as they're trying to like wrap back around. But it feels like he's not invisible, but you just don't see much of him in that first half. And then you get into the second half and you remember who he is. It's where you're walking into his setups, where he's rotating back in. And, well, in this, it was just the perfect timing and quick reactions to pick off a double. Vitality now get that pistol under their belt, and that's the difference. This could have been Fnatic walking away 10-4, potentially in the lead. Instead, unless a Bucky's going to do some real work, which it might, no. 3 HP though.
They were a pixel closer to him, who knows? Less again. It's the same old story.
See what I mean now?
Yeah. Yeah, that has nothing to do with setup or utility. This is just less. Oh, he got popping heads. Eventually down goes Safe.
How's he got 3?
Yeah.
Like, the man only has a classic. This is always the thing when I feel like you watch Chronicle, you just see stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. And now, with a gun in hand, a Bulldog, the same as his opponents, one of them even tagged, and it's Chronicle, he has a chance.
Oh, but the shots don't land. Not in his favor this time. Vitality to take this round across the line, but I think it's fair to say they took a few more blows than they meant to in this one. It's going to be a bit more costly than it should have been, especially with Les, the guy who had basically nothing invested, coming through and just picking them apart up in heaven. The fact that Chronicle gets away with that, following up with another, and of course it was Les, injured from so much of that combat, and the same thing for Safe.
With a bookie on me. What a good boy.
A Bucky and a snake bite. Yeah, Safe hasn't had a fun round.
I think Les already has the same amount of kills in this half as he did the last, and that's not because he was particularly bad, it's just that he's got 2-3 Ks in the first 2 rounds. We'll see if that's a continuing trend. It does mean, I was going to say, there's not the best of purchases, but that's not the start they were looking for. A few spam shots that Sivov has walked into. But there is still the aggression of Durka in mid. Now, getting out of this spot can be difficult, but he does have himself the gate crash, at least for now.
Fake teleport.
It's used as a fake, but another goes out. Drone heard inside of B main. Information for Fnatic that right now Vitality should be rotating, should be expecting this to be an A hit.
Safe just picked up the rifle as well, so that has been retrieved.
The numbers will be ready for this A push. 3 players in position. You've got to get through Les's setup as well, and if one goes down, he'll have that information off the back of his ultimate, the neural theft. But look at where Boaster is, still sitting outside that B site. We could easily see a wrap back through the vents to try to meet him, and the only man that could stop them would be Safe. So his hold up in heaven, and that's exactly what's happening. Safe's hold is so important here. He's just missed Boaster, stepping through that angle. He might catch him here. Oh, he's being caught instead. And now the door is wide open for a plant.
That timing couldn't be any better. That was the one sort of saving grace of this position, is having Safe potentially be able to cut them off on the rotation. Him going down, it is just a yellow brick road all the way back to the B site. Still with a lurk left in middle, so something that has to be wary from the defense. And a lot that they need to find here.
Oh, that was close. Just off by a little, and that would have really bridged the gap for Vitality. Chronicle hasn't been spotted. Taking a leaf out of Les's book.
Okay.
One pick, that'll spur them forward, but also gets Chronicle to make his play. The dagger in the back, and now they don't know how they can go forward. Constantly worried about that backstab. Les, one to swing out first, does damage to Chronicle. Or Crashies, I should say. Chronicle's still up in heaven and may need to hurry up. Catches one, kicks with 2, but it's not enough. Too many bodies from Fnatic, and Chronicle's lurk paying off dividends.
The thing you now have to think about is how costly that was. That was a 4v5, you dropped a player immediately, and now you've ended up with none of your players surviving. You're going to have to drop down to the light shields immediately. I can see on the scoreboard, Durka has bought up the Outlaw. They're looking to go farming, so considering it was a bonus, okay, it had a few rifles in there that maybe they would have wanted to try and win, but I think the damage is honestly
First time
enough.
someone checked me.
And also, you have to talk about Vitality in that round being a little bit unlucky. Like Safe being caught, he checked that spot moments ago, Durka being caught, checking that spot moments ago. I think they could be relatively happy with that round, even if it's annoying.
Well, Chronicle comes in with a Viper's Pit ready to work with. B-side is the target. If they can get that pit down. There's a lot of trouble for Vitality, but Sivov able to pick off the first. He's already TP'd into the back of the site, but he's not got any real opportunities, barely avoiding the breach utility, but taking a big, heavy tag down to 45 HP. Good pickup by Durka, and they thought the Kayak had left. They thought the utility had cleared him out, but he gave his position away. Boaster on 8 is the last man standing, and he won't stand any longer. Vitality, 2 rounds behind after a 5-0 start. This is looking like the game is far from over, even on their defensive side.
The crazy thing is, I feel like Sivov started this one off with like the craziest game of aim training you've ever seen. It's like, okay, I gotta pick up the Prowler, shoot the guy jumping, I gotta spin around, try and shoot the Horn, and still survive.
I knew he was backside,
all of it.
but I thought
it
Clemson
just manages to do it.
I didn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. One of them knew he was backside, but didn't come.
I love the face. It's like, well, yeah, you knew. You knew.
It was a good point, though. He thought he TP'd out. The breach utility should have cleared him. A Kix was just a little off with that, giving him a gap, and a gap that very nearly, well, could have cost him the round. In another world, it would have. Fnatic down on pistols, though. It's a classic buy and full eco for the squad. How things have been going. Should be a Vitality clean up. Though the first is a trade.
They're losing a lot of players to Classics. This is an obscure angle. I don't think I've ever seen a scope that far zoomed in on something. I feel like that's like when someone has to read with like a magnifying glass. Like you're a little bit too close to that one. But it's Durka. Still managed to hit the shot. Spike found. Know where that's going to be, and unfortunately any lurks, any sneaky plays are getting picked apart. Yeah, I know for a fact that Durka for a moment was like, I'll knife him, and then realized, maybe not in this round. Maybe not when I could throw my gun to an opponent and when 2 of my teammates have light shields.
It's the other thing, right? Only Les could have taken a blast from that Outlaw. It's got 2 barrels. Alfier, he's walking into heavy traffic. Les was there, and I don't think he'd expect Sivov to be in position either. 9-8, 1 round between them for Vitality. That's got to feel like a real olive branch being extended. The fact that they came in slow to start, and even the fact that they found that, what was it, a full Thrifty round. They had like 4 Classics and a Sheriff and ended up picking up their first that way. That's given them these foundations to build on and be so close to the score of their opponent. Close enough that Fnatic start to panic. They're calling a timeout here.
I think the rough thing for Fnatic was, of course, having that round victory, but one that you have no players surviving. So the thing's becoming incredibly costly. And then a lot of the aggression hasn't really worked out for them. Even the sort of classic B-site combo where you have like the gate crash to the back of the site and then you have the raise run through. It felt quite easy for Sivov to isolate a duel and still get out of there because of counter utility that was being thrown in. I think Kix, as always, has been doing an excellent job of at least making those fights so okay, he may have forgot to calm the Kayak was there, but he did a lot of damage to him and made sure that he couldn't fight Sivov in the initial battle.
Also forgive him because he was pretty certain that he'd pushed him out of the position. Just a tiny bit of misutil.
He's a breach. He's got other things to do, you know?
He's busy. He's busy. You want a breach that doesn't calm things. No, but obviously it's a flash in the pan. Good to see as well during that timeout. You've got Scut and Milan. Milan's someone that for a long time I think we've desired seeing in that head coach position. Done a lot of work for a lot of teams behind the scenes, and obviously we've seen him in the assistant coach spots, but him getting his chance, especially at a team like this, I don't think that's a chance that he will let fumble anytime soon. 9-8, 1 round between them. Fnatic, they've got their full buy. They've got some ultis to work with as well. Still waiting to see Crashies once they get the site, put that Viper's pit into play. Oh, and it doesn't matter. The Viper's got a bite to it in the pit or not.
I think he was literally like a few milliseconds away from getting a collat. Like they lined up perfectly for Durka, but his opponent was quicker on the trigger. Now look to continue that space. That's the thing. Look at where the rest of the players are, though. They are spread across the map. You've got a deep hold towards B. And okay, sure, Kayak's taken space alongside that Viper screen, but I think they're just going to leave him in position because the defense have rotated heavily here. And I thought, okay, maybe you'd look at the ults and see like a from the shadows, there's a chance for a quick rotation. It's not that. They are fully reliant on Les to hold on to B if they go that way. And honestly, I'm okay with it.
I can understand it. Yeah, you play the retake if needed, and with the ults that they have, why not?
And it's less.
And it's less, indeed. But of course, Rolling Thunder almost being online, but even the stun from Breach alongside salvos and an Armageddon can easily turn the tide of a side take. It has, and the rotation's coming in, but it's surely not. They're taking a while to get to backside, actually. They'll be here on time to potentially disrupt that plan, depending on utility. And with 12 seconds, that's not ideal. In comes the Armageddon, 10 seconds on the clock. We're down to the last chance. The plant needs to be stuck. If they can interrupt, it could change the game, but they're not there on time. And the full stick is cancelled! A huge piece of utility. Kicks may have made a mistake with that very same util before, but this time, the Aftershock hits hard.
I wonder if he calmed that one. I've got him. That is just
Dirk's behind the box.
Timing. Yeah, that's the thing. A little bit slow. The Nightfall gave the game away. Yeah, as I said, that was an almost guaranteed collapse. But it was the Aftershock, just held until the last few seconds. That is literal perfect timing coming out of Kicks. And as I said, he's someone that is just incredibly intelligent player when it comes to this initiator. 9-9, scoreline equalized. Weaponry now, a bit of an issue. Ultimates either online or getting close, other than the one that was utilized in the last round. And while Dirk's already going to kick things off with a pick. This was one of the guns as well, right? Yes, Kayak's just picked it up.
That last coming down to the wire, putting Vitality neck and neck, putting the economy ahead for them. This is huge. Yeah, the damage done to Kayak is massive. Again, that Viper's Pit still online for Fnatic. In a round like this, you'd love to have it. But with Chronicle picked off early, that option completely gone, and with it, a lot of the hope for this round to fall into their hands. Alfier, one of those rifles, fighting solo. Not able to find a result and very quickly turns tail from mid. They're going to group up. And maybe we'll even see, like, Kayak 6 HP with the Vandal. It could go to someone else. Boaster's been having a good game. Let's see.
Group up first. Well, Safe maybe getting a little bit more information than he bargained for. Takes a tag. Solid paranoia. Sivov decides to delay instead, and with those salvos, again, that clock is being burnt dangerously low. I think Vitality are doing a great job at cycling that utility and just making these fights so incredibly awkward. Back they go towards the A site. Dirka homed in with the sniper, but he gets taken out by Alfier. You mentioned that rifle, it's still in hand again. They need to cross to the side, and they just about spot out Safe in the last second. Alfier's revenge from what was that previous half. And now even has the showstopper. Nobody is going to be facing, but shoots it a little early. That gives Sivov a chance.
Yeah, that's tough. Showstopper, even just to buy that extra time, but as soon as it's fired off, they know they've got an opportunity, capitalizing on it. Rolling Thunder goes through to the backside. Heavy pressure put on these players now. Mostly stuck here. Boaster's playing post-plant, but you can't run down that much time with the Stars. He needs to pick off a few. And in fact, they're even blocking the Star as the Grabwell comes in, trying to get that little bit of extra space. And although it won't work out, kills go their way. And with plenty of time on the clock, so too does the round. 10-9. Vitality started this out 5-0 down, and they've just taken the lead on a side where we expected them to put up less rounds. Well, that's certainly not been the case so far.
No, and I think as well, this was a really good recovery. Like after what was, I think, a fantastic start to the round, it was basically just a sandwich. The middle of it went Fnatic's way, where they were able to get in late, they were able to find a pick, they were able to get a showstopper, but that's maybe the slight overheat. Like, I understand it. You wanted to make sure that your teammate was safe while planting, so you try and get aggressive, but the second it is fired, an immediate swing from Sivov, good read on his opponent, and then having that Rolling Thunder to get them back into the site, courtesy of Kicks having again, a sublime game. And again, you look at the scoreboard at the moment, and I would say it's somewhat the unusual suspect. Kicks at the top of the board, Boaster at the top of the board. I don't think too many people would have called that coming into this map.
Yeah, we've seen before the Breach have a field day on this map in particular. So many tight laneways for you to individually use your utility, but especially when you're coming in with a Breach Tejo combo, I sort of expect it to be Safe being the highlight, taking advantage of all those pieces of utility.
Just sat back on the map somewhere, just activating stuns for whoever needs it, like the old DRX style.
That's usually what you're going to be relegated to, but Kicks has had a real fingerprint on most of these rounds, and for Vitality, It's been a saving grace. If he's a little quieter, Fnatic are in the lead and probably about to close out this map, but instead, Fnatic's map pick now under heavy threat. We've seen pauses called by them as well to try to combat this, but the momentum carries on in favor of the defense. That's now 6 out of 7 rounds in this half. Move on to the next, where, again, the credits are very low for Fnatic.
So correct me if I'm wrong, I think Kayak was 14 and 7.
Accurate at the halftime.
Now 14 and 14.
Yep.
So it has been, he's been silenced. Like, that's it. He's been silenced. And again, we mentioned it when we talked about Durka and his need to almost teleport into risky areas. And now we're seeing the other side of it. It can be rough to be a Yoru on the attack. Fact is, though, Durka now has the Operator and the Dimensional Drift. The same can be said for the other side with the Dimensional Drift, at least, and a Viper's Pit. Something to get them in and something to hold on. Immediately, Kayak is going to look to try and take that space, but it's a ruse for the other side of the map.
Durka thins the herd, and again, a round where Chronicle wants to put that ult into play. Kayak with a risky maneuver, but they needed to recover something on that push. Unfortunately, it's left them in a really tough spot. 5v2 now with Safe taking down Alphier, and Crashy's hold as he might. He's separated from his teammate, he's all alone, and you can't hold all those angles. Not when Vitality are flooding back in. It feels like there's a couple rounds now where we've seen Fnatic want to make it to a site. The Chronicle just gets eliminated immediately. You lose your wall, you lose your post-plant ability. Even if they got site control and he was still one of the members moving in there, Pit goes down and you've got a real chance. You can divvy up the map a little bit easier, but they have been stopped at the word go every time.
10 seconds left.
It's definitely impressive. Again, you're looking back to a lot of the victories that we've seen out from this Vitality squad, and it was sort of reliant on heavy attacks. You go back to maybe the loss they had to T1 on Split, it was because they had a poor attack side. This time, though, it's almost looking like they're one of their first games when they played versus Foot, an 11-1 defense. Well, maybe that's where we're going, because there's only been one round in this half for Fnatic, and I also have to caveat with they had 0 players surviving in that one round, so there has not been anything particularly competitive, and if it has, I feel like Vitality have been doing great work to recover. Now with the wind at their back, confidence flowing after some quieter starts, I don't know, I think there needs to be something drastic to change for Fnatic if they're going to be able to take this map home.
Decent enough investment from Fnatic. They'll still have mostly credits for the next, and any weaknesses can maybe be bolstered down by a site take with a Pit going down, but with Chronicle's first deaths so far, not sure that that's something you want to build a plan around. Vitality have done very well at being disruptive, whether it's Durka getting aggressive for those early picks.
I think the salvos as well from Safe. Like, we're used to him, go back a year or two, just first man in taking battles, but I think his salvos have been so disruptive. A good start though, that's less down, and a lot of the time that's a solo anchor. You can see Alfie is going to try make a move off of it. The stun is perfect. The supportive util for Boaster, and then the swing from Kayak.
Yeah, that's worked out wonderfully. I think a little bit whiffy up in heaven before the stun landed, but gets there in the end. Well, gets there in the end for Alfie. 9 rounds turning into 10, most likely. And the question for Safe and Durka is whether they go for it. They've got credits to throw at this one, but in a 2v5, it just feels wasteful, especially when you want to build up as many opportunities to contest in rounds as possible with this kind of a lead. It's only 2 rounds, and as we said, soon to be 1. Chronicle up, trying to catch these players off. Again, the economy of Fnatic, because of the investment they made here, being a little middle and keeping credits over for the next, they can afford to take risks, especially if it comes at the cost of or with the benefit of removing the operator, which is exactly what they get. Crashes with a double and in-zone flawless for Fnatic, and well, that's the first round this half that feels repeatable.
Oh yeah, it was.
Out of 2.
The first one they won with players alive. But that, then, an in-zone flawless, meaning that you come out with everybody standing. It is going to help them, especially if they were to slip up anywhere along these last few rounds
Really nice
before
shot,
overtime.
Alfia. Really nice shot, Alfia.
Oh, Boaster, I think trying to build the confidence back up. We mentioned Alfia having that whiff early in the game, having a few moments that are not very Alfia-esque. But a decent one when they needed it most. Durka looking to respond in kind. He's Still had his ultimate for a while, another get out of jail free card, but instead this time the gate crash will be enough. I think Fnatic are very well prepared for these sort of plays, especially with how Seavorth has been as well. He's been a very aggressive Omen on this defense.
And you can see the idea here for Fnatic. They're almost playing against themselves when they were on the defense, playing for mid-control and looking on the extremities for any sort of aggression, but Vitality aren't taking a bite of that. They're happy with this more passive mid-control, so they're not actually losing anything. Therefore, they don't have to react. And especially with the A-site solo hold from Les and Cam up in heaven, they have so much information right now that to push B main or something like that would just be an unnecessary risk. We'll ignore that PC utility, although I did still bring it up. But as Fnatic look for some control, 40 seconds left, and they haven't really moved out of the traditional sort of spawn map control that you get.
So long to get back control of the vents after it was received and any sound made.
30 seconds left.
Be the Armageddon, something they're definitely wary of. I'm a bit nervous now, getting into the remaining 25 seconds. Off the top goes Alfia, needs this opening onto Les, and that's exactly what he finds. He actually had the spike as well. They sent that through over the top for him to get that plant, and that's exactly what he's done. A man advantage as Vitality are looking to challenge.
Yeah, they're looking to commit to this. Understandable indeed. You've highlighted there, Crashy's late play through mid, and it's going to be off Chronicles contact as they move up through heaven. They'll be trying to fire a few shots off from the side, spot the info, allow Crashies to come up and capitalize. In goes the stun, and the backside push commences. 5 seconds until salvos. We can't wait for them. It's time to take ground here and now. Fnatic need this round, and Alpha seems content to lock it in with kicks down. They might almost retreat. The time is too far gone. They've caught Crashies, sure, but it's a consolation prize. The round will still go to Fnatic. Viper's Pit still there. Chronicles had it for a while. 11-11, neck and neck. We're going the distance on this map, one way or another.
There is a reason I always am hopeful that this map ends up as the third, as it always seems to give some of the best maps of Valorant, and this one has been a contest throughout. As I said though, that was integral from Alfia. I do like, again, the way that Safe is utilizing those Armageddon ults, but he was the one sort of blip, the fact he's able to get, and it's kind of what I said about him. Like, sometimes maybe you could show him out of a game, but you get him annoyed, you get him a little bit pumped up, and Alfia starts swinging back, still lower down on the board. But you think of the last 2 rounds, from 11-9 down, he's been the main player doing the work.
Who do I have to pay, how much, and where do I wire the money? Just to hear what he said in that clip. That's all I want to know. I want to hear that. I want to experience it. The rest of Fnatic got to, and I think that would have lifted up the confidence a little bit, lifted the morale across the board for Vitality. Well, they swept back into this with a phenomenal, what, 7 or 6 out of 7 rounds? Or 7 out of 8 even better. And at that point, you know, you're feeling like the game is under your thumb. But maybe they took their foot off the gas, or maybe Fnatic found another gear, whatever it is.
But they've been able to pick off less. That's the last 2 rounds. It was Alfia finding a 1v1 on Les, winning it, it opens up B. This time, they have a lot of counter utility to help. He goes over the top, finds Les. That's the opening on A. Those 2 picks changed around massively, because as I said, he is someone that's incredibly difficult to dig out of positions, but it also removes all utility. Everybody else can sweep in after, and definitely makes those holds a little bit tougher for Vitality, of course. Not done yet. They still have a purchase. Safe actually going to be the one manning the operator now. Getting aggressive in towards B main.
Now, Fnatic have been trying to bait out those pushes, get Vitality to play into their hands in a lot of these rounds. And a lot of it has been based around a bit of mid-control. Traps outside A and seeing what happens. But Chronicles moving away from that A side. They're not going to be watching it at all as they now look to late commit to mid-control and take over a little bit of B main. Previously, it's been battles up against Seavorth, if any.
Yeah.
But now the op being there caught them by surprise, and in a round like this, that's exactly what you wanted. Opening pick and Fnatic on the back foot.
Space taken though. Wow. A little bit cheeky from Boaster, looking to try and take the rounds into his own hands. I don't think Dirk is going to be forgetting about that one anytime soon. Kicks to respond. Aftershock to try and delay, but Chronicles already on the other side of it. Doesn't expect anybody else to be that close. Back to level peg, and again, Safe looking to go through the additional utility, just waiting for someone to try and hit that cross, and now just happy to take that man advantage.
No time to pick. Chronicles stuck in the corner, and Les won't let him out. Kayak grabs one after the plant, but the reposition needed, the steps heard, and Seavoff on his trail. 12 rounds now for Vitality, a hard-fought battle, but one they found. They will have an even harder battle ahead of them, though, Tom, because, well, look, I think I've said it a few times, the Viper's Pit's online, Tom. I don't know if you noticed that. Also a showstopper for Alpha Air.
A lot of these rounds have though been done before we've got to the retake. Like, this one was more so safe, going back to what we know him for. These aggressive operator plays, taking space in B main, and then being a bit cheeky on the edge of the utility. At this point, Fnatic may be expecting that they would be respected a little bit more, and that wasn't the case at all. Now, it's going to change up again. Durka back on that operator. He still had his ult for a very long time, but as I said, a lot of these ultimates end up being situational. And if the picks go the way of Fnatic, for the most part, they haven't needed it.
You have a fairly easy solution for Fnatic in going Showstopper for entry and then Viper's Pit to claim the site. But that 1-2 punch is going to be expected, and often Vitality will play back from it now in terms of what they have to respond, keeping safe, for example,
or
alongside salvos, alongside, well, yeah, exactly. We've got Seavoff playing inside B main. But the utility that's in play for Vitality, minus the drone now, could easily clear that back out. So I don't mind Fnatic not going barriers up, get in, take the site, because the reaction could still be there. But late on, that's exactly what the play is going to be. Leaving the pit late into mid, fired up into heaven was the showstopper, but it won't land value, not in the form of a kill, but it's done damage, and it's sent Vitality into a deeper hold. But now, they're seemingly looking to retake that space. Kicks inside of utilities, pushing forward alongside his teammate Seavoff. They don't want to relinquish control, and that could be their biggest mistake. Alpha popping off with players soon to emerge from that smoke.
That was the second one placed, but the time on it is ticking. This is so many enemies to try and find, and Alfia just isn't stopping. We are going to overtime after another in-zone flawless. Fnatic break back, and I'll be honest, that's now 3 rounds that we've seen of the last 4 that I'm going to give credit to Alfia.
Absolutely. Yeah, this step up has been night and day, and you look back, I think since that whiff that he had and the 300-odd bullets shot into his corpse, I don't know whether that got in his head, but definitely the performance hasn't been there. There's been some whiffy moments, but he's warmed up now. He's getting excited. He's on his feet. Also a check-in as we get into our first round of overtime. Chronicle will not have the Viper's Pit.
Okay.
I feel like that's worth highlighting because, like, I had it the whole game, but they never had an opportunity to use it, and I think that feeds into Vitality's aggressive, disruptive comp, how in their face they were being, and how unlucky Chronicle was in some of those early duels. He was the guy taking the flak of the op shot.
Go back in level. Always expected this series to be a contest, but overtime in map number 1 might be in for a long, long day. Chronicle is in trouble. He's tried these aggressive positions. A lot of times the salvos were utilized in towards the vents. He tries to play in front of the vents and they use it in front instead.
He's, again, those early fights on the attack. Didn't matter if he was first, second, or third. It felt like their bullets were just magnetized to his body, but this time around, it's the utility that does him in, grabbing him in that tight position and not letting him go. Vitality move to the A site. Got Crashies and Kayak holding the line, and Crashies has done pretty well, usually in a bit more of a passive spot, and I think that would be because you have Kayak in play. The trap had caught it. Crashies doesn't know there's players right around this corner, the entire team, in fact, coming his way, and that cage perfectly blocks what could have been a one and done, or at least a chance to get out. The gate crash
so alone. Look,
to
they
backside.
are on the other side. There's 3 players currently on B. They gambled in completely the wrong direction. They gate crashed away from this position. So now he has tried to delay. He's utilized whatever he can. Now it just comes down to, can he hold on to this backside? Can he take somebody with him? Otherwise, this retake's going to be incredibly difficult. But he steps up when needed. A 3rd kill for Crashies. He was left on an island, but somehow he has survived. This puts that timer, that clock on. Les already is the last man standing, and well, Crashies has pulled out a hero round that never should have been.
Best part about that is you see him go by and they're like, Alpha's on site, you deal with him real quick. And he just comes in with the shorty, raining down hell.
How did he get 3? Like, that's literally, just moments ago, we saw a rotation from Kayak to the other side of the map going, okay, we think this is a B site here. He is at the back alone. No one anywhere near him. and manages to get 3. We talked about this guy back at kickoff as at times being a bit underwhelming. Maybe not being at that level anymore, but wow.
Austin Roberts.
That was some vintage Crashy's gameplay. And honestly, after last week, I was like, okay, can he do this versus the big boys? Yes, he can do this versus the big boys.
He just did, right in front of our eyes. You see, that play even got Scut up on his feet. Milan's hand must hurt after that.
They're still in the camera shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, he crouched down a little bit. He knew the roof kept him at a reasonable height. But honestly, 13-12, Fnatic already providing us with a wealth of entertainment. Now they move to their attack side, but this is where the struggles have been. And in regulation, we saw all 4 timeouts used, but we moved to OT, so more come online, and Vitality popping it in right away. They know that the Fnatic of old, they just walk away with this. Once they're given that lead back, there's no contesting it. For Vitality, well, they've stolen one of those players, Durka. I called him the prodigal son, and at least towards the start of the game, I guess he hadn't returned. He was a little slow to start. Would be one hell of a time to step up.
Feels like the second it gets into OT, into the late game, Fnatic, I don't know if they're injecting their players with like the BS gene, like creating super soldiers, but whatever it is, it's working.
Here.
A play that has given them an advantage maybe they shouldn't have had. A man down, 3 found alone on site. But to take their map choice, they might just need 1 more.
Vitality have been fighting around mid. Certainly got the utility to do so. Deep flash and Haunt fired right in onto them. I don't know if they noticed there's 2 players there. I think they might have with how quick those shots came through. I think a step back for whatever reason. And a very late play. Chronicle was playing right around here. Spotted that the drone came through from Tejo, that they would have A main cleared, gets himself into a corner. He's again looking for that reaction for Vitality to get it aggressive, but that hasn't really been happening. Again, this is a team that is content to give up that space and really fight them on the site itself. They don't want to fight in the beaches.
Recovering it.
Time is ticking though. This was one of the real cruxes of the attack side from Fnatic, hitting these sites with nigh on 15 seconds left.
30 seconds
maybe
left.
they had a pick by them. Maybe they had some info. Right now, Safe is still set up and ready. Still actually has those salvos available. Timing is going to be everything for them. 20 seconds left on the clock. He's now got kicks alongside. And that said, he has bought them extra time.
12 seconds. They pick Durka. Still 2 on the site, though. Do they have the read? Kicks finds 1, and from the smoke comes Safe. 6 seconds. Plat needs to be found! But first, you gotta find Kicks. 4 kills on the backside. He says, Crashy's hold my beer. He'll do 1 better. Neck and neck, and another overtime. We thought this could be a belter of a series, Tom. I didn't think the first map would go this hard. Can't wait to see Lotus and Haven.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll wait as long as we need to. Give me more OTs.
Normally you warm up a little bit. You get into the late game where you get these clutch plays out. Maybe everybody's a bit more exhausted, but it's just absurd.
Nice! Thank you!
Oh, that's the most like polite. You don't have to mute Faded, guys. He's just going to say thank you instead. Safe, under pressure. A very aggressive stance, but they retreat off it. Not wanting to give up the opener as the full force of Vitality rotate back into support. Not wanting to leave a man out alone, and well, pace is then immediately slowed back down. Althea, as said, I think his confidence has been building and building. The last 3 rounds of regulation, Fnatic managed to garner were under his belt. You can see that in this defensive side as well. I don't think we witnessed him this deep in B main. Maybe we saw others, but I think this is more of a confidence play.
Oh, Chronicle! Finally, the first death will be avoided. He's the one to pick off Durka. Big one to find as well. Vitality, though, they're going to stay strong in their play towards this A site, moving up into heaven. He said Kayak, playing that little deeper, but it's going to be sold as a fake. They won't know that there's a player aggressive because Crashies is in that same old position, playing passive. He's drawing their eye. Sends in the C's as well, and Kayak gives his position away, but it's well worth it. Landing himself the pick. And they know there's still one in heaven. Seavoth down low. TP, he won't get away. Oh, he will! barely avoiding those shots in the smoke down to cover his retreat. No, he will not make it to sight though. The spam through that smoke picks him off and leaves one player less. Good in the clutch, but no time to even plant the spike. This round is done, and it falls in favor of Fnatic.
It seemed like Fnatic in this round did excellent work, giving up space, but then having a response to whatever they gave up. Like they managed to find that opening pick, as you mentioned, Chronicle just through a gap in the smoke, but then they know, okay, we've given up the vents, Crashy's repositions to hold on to it. They then have aggressive control of the stairs as well to make sure that, okay, he can flip back around and fight alongside. Without much presence, that's... I was about to say, I knew he spammed, but I didn't think he caught him that early. It's a little bit unlucky for Seavoth, but I think by that point the round was already firmly in the favor of Fnatic. Oh, the coaching staff had decided we're actually going to take a pause after the victory, wanting to close out this map here and now. It has been a defensive marvel throughout the game. It was only those, like, obviously the last 3 rounds coming in and a 3 cluster in the middle as well that sort of maybe made us think the tide would change at some point. Someone has to break that run of defense rounds eventually.
Well, you're seeing it there. This pause maybe even called by Boaster. Maybe it was called by the coaching staff just to reset the mental, get them on the straight and narrow. It's been a long game. The longer it goes on, the more you know you've put into it, the more that it feels like is on the line. You can see deep breaths from the coaches. You can only imagine how the players feel. 14-13. One more for Fnatic, and things started to go right in that last one. We've seen Chronicle with that early pickup. Boaster still paving the way for the squad. Vitality seeing the same struggles. But this defense, it's where they've been putting up those rounds. They looked great swapping into the second half. A revitalized team. Let's see if it's the same in overtime number 2.
The idea is to try and sell Althea as a ruse while the rest of the team go back, but an aggressive position from Durka is one that's going to be difficult to hold on to. Obviously trying to bait him out with a teleport back, but the fake smoke
Down B.
works out in Durka's favor. And Crashy's down already.
She's gone, indeed. 3 players around this position as well. 2 players make that with Seavoth down. 1 up in heaven, Kicks not yet spotted. And that TP into backside from Kayak has gotten them so much space to play with Alphier on the lurk, but he's being caught. Les knows that game. It's not one you're likely to beat him on. Numbers back in favor of the defensive side. And a retake not even needed yet. Salvo's come in to delay the plan.
General irritation. Obviously Fnatic this time with a lot more on the clock. Plant will now be in their favor. Aftershock to try and create a more awkward scenario for Kayak, but he's not really been cleared. Even still, Kicks manages to win the battle, and just like that, they fall like dominoes. It is a quick retake from the side of Vitality. We go again.
Quick indeed. Quite, I mean, we say it sometimes, but blink and you miss it. Genuinely, I feel like that was synchronized. The opening pick by Durka onto Crashies as well, causing problems. You don't have that same ability to reveal them, to grab the information. We saw Seavoth put in that precarious position. Less, if he goes down there, the round is in trouble with Alpha still roaming around and the potential for the spike to move back in the other direction. But after the pause, it seems like Vitality were the ones to make best use of that time down. 14-14, overtime number 3. The Fnatic are back on the defense. The B-side hold from Boaster has been strong enough that I'm surprised Vitality don't just start on the A.
I think a lot of the time, though, we saw both teams having that success. Running into the B side, it was the aggressive take, the pause, and then going back for it. But a lot of the time, that was when Boaster had swapped.
Yeah.
I think with his utility, he's much more able to slow them, but also isolate the player at the back of the site. That was the issue. If somebody TPs to the back of the site and you don't have anything to cover, you can't turn and face because you're stuck in the mud. Here, though, some early presence shown. You can already see at the back. Gate crash, 4 rotations have been thrown in. Clear that there's an idea. Maybe there's going to be a ruse sold. I'm looking at safe outside B main. Potential for maybe a salvo or 2 to be thrown in just to sell the idea there on that side of the map.
Look at how much space they've given up over on Fnatic. You have to be worried about the fence push-up now because there is just no information to play with. Chronicle steps out wide, picks one but goes down. TP comes in, gate crash used to good effect by Kayak and the clone going through. It confirms that he's here. They start to suspect maybe those rotations have come into play. And so the B site will be a bit more open. They've made the right call. But Boaster on the B site, well, he called earlier, let me back on B. And here he is, but he has to hold off against the whole squad. 12 seconds. Plant needs to be connected very soon. That paranoia, perfect from Seavoth. That's a double pickup from him with the paranoia alongside his buddies. And now a plant that should be difficult for Fnatic to get back into. That jump was heard, and Durka's more than ready for the angle from Crash. He's a cleanup for Vitality and an attack side win, setting them up to potentially close this map out.
Well, you look back at how this has gone so far, Fnatic have been the ones that have had opportunities to close out this map, at least in overtime. Yeah, Boaster pretty much left out to dry. That was an attempt, I believe, to try and find whoever was planting, but a bit of an obscure plant position thrown out by Vitality, knowing the risks of him still being on that site. Now with their chance to close out this game, they head onto the defense. Both teams have been thriving, but as we know, when you get into OT, it matters not.
Alpha's still around B main. This is where Durka's caused problems, but he's pushed in that little bit deeper. Push doesn't come through, so the alarm, or boom bot rather, put into play. Durka was waiting for the repeat, but it's not coming through.
It's the same spot as the last defensive OT, so I think Durka sat there thinking, they're not going to expect me to do the exact same thing twice.
They wanted that drone to see them. There's no way that Chronicle didn't know that was coming into play. It's been pushing up in A main when they don't give contact every round. We even saw him not long ago play behind this box on his own, so the drone didn't see him and he could fill in the space. They knew that they were going to show two players there. And then nothing. A complete freeze, a complete stoppage on the play, and Fnatic start to rotate over. I'm curious if they think maybe Vitality will have started to leave the A site, leave it a bit more open with just less here. That's not the case.
No, I think because Durka still has complete vision into B main, there's not really been a mass reason to pull those rotations away. Also, someone normally challenges him. So instead, they're going to go walked into a pretty stacked up site. The TP stun is perfect, though. That safe eliminated immediately, but still they have to try and deal with less. This time, he comes up trumped, still sat at the back of the site. A second already dropped, looking for more, but eventually dealt with. And now Durka, the man returning to face his old team, is all that stands. His IGL on the other side, and well, anything you can do, we can do better. Fnatic, they'll pull up an attack side round as well.
That's really impressive as well, because Vitality were ready for that A hit. Yep. They had passive play in mid, giving it up completely. We even saw a smoke from Vitality on the defense into B heaven to stop that angle from being peaked, because they didn't know if the push-up was coming. But it was a gamble, and I think it comes from the fact that Fnatic have not played mid. If anything, the only time they've really been around mid for that early fight is when they go into A heaven and then go back through vents.
Nice!
So the take instead was set around, let's give up mid, let's gamble that they won't take it, and stack the A side a bit more heavily. It worked, at least in terms of having numbers for the fight, but still, Fnatic are able to break through. Another OT. Oh, and Kayak in a risky position, but one that has a wealth of rewards. A two-piece pickup, and Vitality miles behind in this attack round.
Crashes through that before, expecting Durka to try and be cheeky on the cross, and that's the second time he's been punished for the exact same play. Obviously about 10 rounds between the last time it happened. Crashy's less in a 1v1, and Les has taken it home. Still though, a hefty rotation of players. Boaster trying to make sure the cross to sight is not going to be an easy one, and they've also lost the battle within Heaven, leaving just two standing, and they know exactly where Kicks is going to be. Les to try and fight back, needs an ace to take it, and while with Dimensional Drift just basically being as awkward as possible. Kayak now comes up with a 4K of his own, and Fnatic now with another chance to close.
Well, that's it. The focus is very much around Durka playing his old team, and of course that's a very deep storyline with all the international events they've not just played at together, but won together as well, and the EMEA ones too, let's not forget. He got the bucket. But for Fnatic, having someone like Kayak coming up against Durka, if you have a bad game, the immediate comparison is going to be...
Holy shit, I did like insanest flick, bro.
Yeah, he just did the wall bang.
The comparison's always going to be that, oh, well, Kayak's not as good as Durka. It's a downgrade. If they lose the game, oh, it's because Kayak didn't... If that was Durka there, man, he would have had 40. The reality is he's not only doing better than Durka, but he has had rounds that are all down to him. Big confidence builder for such a young talent. Although he's been through the ringer himself. 16-15. A chance for Fnatic to close out their map pick and forget how close this has been. Take a little bit of a breather before they move on to Lotus, where Vitality decided to take it today. The attack side again, we're seeing the same sort of scenario play out, waiting for that aggression. Drone changes position this time. It's going to get a bit of information that they're waiting outside mid, something that hasn't been seen in a lot of these rounds.
Back once again. Oh, Durka has hit that shot onto Chronicle, an attempted retreat, and he will not get away. Not this time. Viper Scream now offline, and because of that, they're going to sell the idea that they're going into the B side. I like the idea. Look at the rotation. That is the full squad going through the spawn. Everybody feeding their way back to B. You've just lost your lurker over on the A side. You see an immediate response over on the B side. You expect that to be the complete commitment. But instead, they're walking into a free A side. Of course, Fnatic have to take the time to do so. Have to take the time to get in. But they'll have a post plant and a potential late position.
It's time to make a decision. Gate Crash is going to be going offline fairly soon, and there's no way to make the call any different now. Gate Crash gone. Kayak moving into A, going for the flank. It looks like he'll be good. Catching one at least, knowing the push is coming in, communicating that to his teammates. It results in a trade to start with. We're waiting for Kayak to complete this full wrap around, and it's a free kill presented. He will capitalize. Looking up top for safe, a good idea. Ow, it's a messy fight, but when he wins, Durka on the other side though, facing his replacement and taking him down to keep the game going. Another overtime needed to separate these teams on split.
Oh, here we go. The longest map was, of course, yesterday, Foot versus Mate. And obviously that was an 18-16. We are going to at least 18-16. We'll see if that continues. I think we've been there most of the time. We've had the longest maps in history.
Amber Bind, what game?
Thinking back to a little bit of FPX Forza. Or maybe, if you want to talk about Fnatic, a Fnatic mech.
Yes, yes.
And on Split as well. These teams have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, but after what has been an absolute journey of a map, someone eventually has to take it. It seems like that could have been it. But up for the Durka 4K. Oh, Crashy's about to be under pressure once again. He thrived in it when we kicked off OT.
Last big pickup. Kayak's been bailing them out of rounds. When things get dicey, Crashies has done the same with these A-site holds, but no 3K this time. Sivov is picked off at least, but look how quickly the response is there. Les always causing problems. In your blind side is where he lives, and a double stack up will send Boaster to the Shadow Realm. It's only Alphayer looking to bring this back. Vitality of 4 players alive, plenty of time to work with, and an op not great for a spray transfer, is it? 17-16. Vitality with map point on their opponent's pick.
The thing I've loved about this map is you're watching two teams consistently adapt to everything the opponent is doing. Think back to the openings from Kayak in that defensive round where he's expecting Durka to try and jump across, gets an opener for it. This round was, we saw a huge play out from Crashies at the back of the elbow. They send so much utility into that corner, there is no way he survives. They are so careful with it, and even, I think it was a paranoia while he's full spraying to make sure there is no chance of that happening again. That adaptation makes the site so much more open. And the learning curve for either side, again, puts Vitality in that driver's seat. Heading into the defensive side of that. We haven't seen too many attack rounds so far in OT.
Drone going up.
Minute 10 on the clock. Fnatic showing much more mid presence than most of the rounds. Looking to make their way through. But Alpha, this has been the consistent factor. He's been lurking around B main, trying to pressure, trying to take Durka off the angle. This time, he's running into less.
Think about their attack rounds. When they won attack rounds, he was the focal point.
Careful here.
Finding either an opener, picking off less, like winning that battle, as you said, or coming up with 3 or 4 kills. This time they're going to have to try and deal without him, and that will burn the clock. 40 seconds left, and they are only just clearing out positions in mid. The spike also outside B without a whole lot of help. This is a dangerous round at this stage from Fnatic.
They failed to take down Kicks as well. Still so much util online. He's forced forward though by the snake bite. A chance if they can pick him off, but instead it's Kicks finding one up above. Less consistent, and he's on the site with just his dinner to finish. Boaster and Crashies. And it's Crashies to take the kill. Keeping this doable for his side, but a plan has to be stuck surely. Barely any time left, and now, no choice. Durka with the swing could end it all here, and that's exactly what he does. The final dagger in the back from their former squad mate. And it is 18-16. We went the distance here. Vitality 1-0 up going into their own map pick.
Yeah, it's Lotus to come up next. We have not witnessed that from Fnatic just yet, but historically it was a good map for them. It is, however, an excellent map from Vitality. It needs to be a recovery, but first, a break.
Bro, I came with a bookie. He came with a bookie on me. What a good boy. Alpha was looking at my dog.
No, I better.
Let's go, bro. Guys, we're one step ahead of these, bro. My mom was on B as well, honestly. Like, on my mom.